It's that time of the month again. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Talk. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about every movie I watched in the month of June, which I did that for May if you want to go watch that video. But how it works basically is like I'm just going to go through every movie I watched, just talk about it for like a minute or two, and I'll give you the rating, what I watched it on, and just overall how I felt about it. But I watched a lot of movies this month, so I don't want to spend too much time on the intro. So let's just get into the video. I started off the month with Godzilla minus one, which is insane that it took so long for me to watch this movie, but I loved this movie. I rarely ever see a Godzilla movie where like I actually care about the human characters. It's kind of funny because at times I completely forgot that this was a Godzilla movie because I was so invested with what was going on with the actual people that I kind of just like wasn't really focusing on the fact that this is about Godzilla. And so it was very well done. It's exactly what kaiju movies need to stop becoming. These movies focused on humans and just having this extra added layer of Godzilla in the background too. Because that's always been the hardest part to sit through about all these kaiju movies. Because I grew up on Godzilla. And watching them now, the hardest part is just having to sit through all these characters who I don't care about and just having to wait for Godzilla to eventually show up. For this was different because I was like so invested with every single character. But I mean, it's on. I watched it on Netflix. Go watch it on Netflix. It's such a good movie. But you want to know what isn't a good movie? The Watches. I spent my hard-earned money watching that in theaters, and I don't regret it. But man, that was such a waste of time. I've talked about this movie. It's such a stupid plot twist that they could have done anything with this movie. You could have done so many cool creature designs and so many cool ideas, and yet that's what you do with the movie. Like it just felt like a whole big waste of time, and I hated every single second of the movie once the twist was revealed because it was actually building up to a pretty interesting like the movie was building up really interesting. There was a lot of great tension towards the beginning, and like I was actually really interested. And then the movie just kept on going and going and going, and it got to the point where like I just didn't care anymore. I just wanted the movie to be over with. Oh boy! And then I watched Overcomer. You haven't heard that movie? Keep it that way. I watched it with my grandma. She loves these Christian movies. Oh man, it was a hard one to sit through. A very hard one to sit through. There was actually a moment where I thought it was actually building up to something interesting. And I will admit, there was some characters. There's a character that you see like in the hospital that I kind of liked. And then the movie kept on going and it made me hate everything. It's like a 2 hour long movie too. Like, I had to sit through that movie for so long. It felt like I was sitting there for 5 hours. It was horrifying. I don't want to relive that experience. I hated the movie so much. However, it's not to the point where it's a half a star movie. There are some moments where like there's some jokes in there where I actually laughed at. Like it wasn't like it was totally just a complete waste of time. There were some moments in there that kind of made me smile and laugh. And that's really the only compliments I have for this movie. And then we have Hitman, which I'm just saying right now could possibly be a candidate for Best Adapted Screenplay in the Oscars because that script was, whoo, it was so good. I love the writing of this movie. I think Glenn Powell, he's slowly become, well, not slowly, it kind of felt like out of nowhere. He's this big like movie star now. I love him in this movie. I loved this movie so much. It was such a fun movie because so much of it was dedicated to Glenn Powell dressing up as different characters and doing that. And it made me smile so much because that's what the most of the movie was about. And then it gets to like a main like actual plot point. But like for what it was for that moment in the script, like it's such a fun movie. If you have the chance, please watch this movie because it's one of those movies that's just too good for Netflix. This should have been in the theaters. I envy everyone who was able to watch this because it came out in theaters for like a weekend, but the week before it came on Netflix. And I envy everyone who saw that movie in the theaters because I wanted to see this in the theater so bad. It would have been such a good experience. But I love this movie so much. I highly recommend anyone who can watch it to watch it. And then I watched Migration, which I wasn't really expecting a whole lot. I didn't think it was going to be that good, but then I saw some clips of the movie, and it actually was like, it was super adorable. And so then when I actually watched the movie, it was a cute movie. And like, I mean that in the best way possible, because it's one of those movies that brings me back to my childhood of watching these animated movies with like my mom, a grandma, or someone, and it brought back a lot of great nostalgia for movies like that. There's always such a great room for these little kids movies that I can watch in the background or just anything and I can just enjoy it. That being said though, it definitely wasn't a good movie. There's a lot of plot beats that it just follows to a point where like it just kind of felt like every other kids movie I watch, which I guess did kind of bring back some of the nostalgia. But I mean, I enjoyed it overall. I mean, the third act definitely kind of started to be a little iffy. It kind of went a little bit off the off the rails with that one. And but yeah, I enjoyed it nonetheless. I really like the movie. I recommend it if anyone enjoys these animated family movies to watch this because it's really a great movie. But you want to know what isn't a good movie for the family? Spring Breakers. Man, it's it's a hard movie to talk about because I have never seen somebody make a movie so well directed and what they were directing was a complete pile of garbage. I love the direction that this movie went in. I it's just man, the footage that they ended up capturing was just terrible. I I hated that they went on this weird thing of like everyone slowly started to leave Miami, like little bit by little bit, and I couldn't get invested because early on the only character I actually care about leaves the entire movie, and it just by that point I couldn't care any less about this movie. And then it has a strange ending, which like I get what they were going for, I get the metaphor for what this movie is. It just worked so horribly for me, and it's really interesting too because the rating scale on this movie, like, I mean, look at that. Like, it is a polarizing film, and I am really interested on like movies like these. I really love these polarizing movies because like that's just kind of what art is at the end of the day. It's polarizing and it can be seen either as beautiful or a complete pile of junk. Me personally, I saw it as a complete pile of junk. But I mean, you could watch this movie and have a completely different experience, and that's perfectly fine. That's what I love about movies so much. It's just this one didn't work for me. And then I watched Good Boys, which it's one of those raunchy comedies, only this time it's all with sixth graders or fifth graders. I don't remember. They're little kids. And so I always have like I like these raunchy movies. I don't love them. Usually most of them end up being like 3 stars. That's how a lot of these types of movies end up being. And this one's no different. It ended up being about 3 stars. I mean, there is definitely some really funny moments, and there's a lot of unfunny moments. Although I will say, out of all of these types of raunchy comedies, this was probably one of the better ones I've seen. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, if you like these kinds of comedies, go watch it because I recommend it. There's some really great gags throughout, and it is really funny how like they take the perspective of a teen movie and make it for little kids. Well, not for little kids, make it with little kids. It's basically just like super bad with fifth graders. It's a really good movie if you like these kinds of films, and there's not really a whole lot to say about it. It's just a pretty simple movie like that. And then I watched Inside Out 2, which I just gotta say, I was so lucky that all the kids in this theater knew how to shut up. Because there's a thing, I hate going to kids' movies because a lot of the times, I swear, there's always a couple of kids that won't shut up the entire movie. And I was so lucky that I was able to see it with a group of kids that knew to be quiet. However, the biggest problem was that there was a couple of adults that were talking like first 10 minutes, so basically talking about the entire time, and they shut up eventually. But I was really worried it was going to be like that. One other thing that was really damaging to my perspective of this movie was I watched it in 3D, which, in case you don't know, I do not care much for 3D movies. I think that they can be done well when it's like Avatar, whenever you can whenever the movie is designed to be in 3D. However, Inside Out 2 is not designed to be in 3D. And so watching it, it was just very painfully obvious that this movie was meant to be for 2D. But okay, to the actual movie itself, I kind of got a little bit sidetracked with that. The actual movie itself, I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of heart to it. It wasn't quite as emotionally damaging as the first one was, which that's another reason I love Pixar movies is I always get mentally scarred every time I see that. That I mean, everyone talks about it. The opening 10 minutes of Up is like, whew, man. But I I enjoyed this movie nonetheless. I thought that for a sequel to a movie, I thought it was very well done. It added more depth as to what makes humans so complex, because that's the one complaint I really have with the first one is that like it kind of simplifies people a little bit too much, and so for this it branches out and actually makes it more complex because that's what people are. They're very complex. And and so yeah, that's really all I had to say about that one. I did a review on the movie. I actually It's one of my favorite reviews I've done. I actually had a lot of fun making the review. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone who's watched this movie probably by now has seen this movie. So like, I guess all I can really say is I recommend rewatching it because it deserves it, really. And then I watched The Dead Don't Die, which I have to be really hesitant on this one because it is very easy. If you don't like this type of comedy movie, you are not going to like this movie. I love these types of comedies movies, and so watching this was just an absolute blast. I love this movie so much. I love this deadpan type of dialogue where like it doesn't feel like real people talking and in like the best way possible. It's like Yorgos Lanthimos, where I'm still working on the name. I don't know why. He's one of my favorite directors and I still struggle with his name. But it's like his movies where like it feels like you're in a different world, and like it's like everything is just slightly off with how people talk, and this is how this one works. It's like everyone who talks always feels like a little bit like alien in sorts, and I really enjoyed it a lot, especially the ending with like what they did with that. I enjoyed it all. I had a lot of fun with this movie. And then I watched Lux Eterna, which is this Gaspar Noé movie. Actually, it's the first movie I've seen from him, and it's such a unique movie in the sense that there's two cameras the entire movie. So the screen basically is split between one footage of right here and another camera with footage right here, and so it's hard to follow what's going on because there will be people speaking English and French because this is a French film. And so the people speaking English on one camera and then French on the other, and then there'll be like people speaking French on both different cameras, and so you're trying to follow what happens on each camera, and it is hard to understand what's happening, which is why like it's really a movie you got to watch multiple times. Luckily, it's only 50 minutes long, so it's not even like it's barely a feature film. It's still technically a feature, but like a very short feature, and so it's hard to figure out exactly throughout this like exactly what's happening throughout the story, but it's very rewarding once you actually get to understand what's happening. And I mean, for the most part, I was able to understand everything really well. But also, if you don't like flashing lights, don't watch this movie, because I want to say the final like 10 minutes, I'd say, is they're basically filming a film on this. The movie is about them filming a film, and so at the very end of Lux Eterna, the stage light behind it starts breaking, and it's like flashing between green, blue, and red, and it's like super fast, and it's like you probably give someone a seizure if they watch it. Actually, fun fact about this movie: when they screened the movie, they actually had paramedics standing by side because they screened it in Cannes, and so when they were showing off the movie, they actually had paramedics in case that somebody had a seizure, because like it's legitimately just it's seizure inducing even if you don't aren't susceptible to seizures. Like it is an intense movie at the very end, and I absolutely ate it up. I love Gaspar Noé. I admire the types of movies he makes. I want to see more of his movies really bad. And so yeah, I think for the most part, this was a great introduction to his career. Actually, what am I what am I saying? I watched Climax from him. I what am I? Hold on. I just had a complete brain fart. This isn't my first movie I've seen from him. I watched Climax. Oh my god. Okay. Sorry, you just saw live in 4K me just having a complete brain aneurysm. So no, and that's funny because Climax is one of my favorite movies of all time. What am I thinking? Oh man. Okay. Okay, yeah, no. So this is the second movie I've watched from him. I don't know what happened there, but okay, I'm gonna try to get back to normal pace. I enjoyed this movie a lot. If you like these art house movies, chances are you've probably already watched it. But if you haven't gotten around to it, please watch it because it's such a great movie. All right, okay. Trying to recover from whatever happened there. It was June 16th, so you know there's only one movie you can watch on June 16th before sunrise. This is one of the most beautifully made movies of all time. And not in the sense of like the shots are beautiful, which there are very great shots, but in the sense that it's just two people talking the entire movie. It really is like one of the greatest romance films ever made, just period. And I mean, I do have it as a four out of 5 stars, but like that's still even just like that. Like it's really is like it's so uniquely beautiful, and then like I really do every time I have the chance, I tell people that like that's the greatest romance movie to watch with your partner of all time. I can't name a single movie that would be better than Before Sunrise. It's legit just it's so beautiful, and I mean naturally I watched it by myself. But I mean, I love this movie so much. I have this keen fascination about what Richard Linklater, or what I probably butchered that name too. I'm horrible with names in case you can't tell by this point. But he makes such a beautiful film out of just people talking, and I love it so much because there's not really any tension. I mean, I guess the only antagonist in this movie is time, really. Like that's really about it. Like this, it's just two people talking about what it's like living in their past and everything about them. I love this movie so much. I mean, if you've somehow never seen this movie, you gotta watch it because it is legit. I'm telling you, greatest one of the greatest romance movies ever made. And then I watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I've finally given in on my third viewing. It's my third viewing of the movie. I finally given in, and just rate it 5 stars because I have a thing about these two-part movies, and that if you want to make a movie separated in 2 parts, you gotta have a satisfying ending to the first part. I always go back to the Lord of the Ring movies where each movie had its beginning, middle, and end, and then goes on to the next one. And they're all their own unique movies. And this one, it does it wrong where that the movie it's only half a movie really. Like that's what you never want to do with like these multiple part movies. Like you don't ever want to make just a part of a movie. You want to make a full story and then be sure to not wrap up too many plot points to the point where you can't bridge onto the second part. And this this one does fall into the case that it doesn't ever wrap up the first part of the story. But with that being said, this is one of the most like visually insane movies to ever be made. Like there's so much going on screen, and like the dialogue is so fast, so well written. The characters are so deep on so many levels, which by the way, I still want to say I 100% agree with Spider-Man 2099. I absolutely never for one moment, even the first time I watched it, thought that he was in the wrong. I have always been saying Miles has been in the wrong. I get why he does what he does, but Spider-Man 2099, he is the really at the end of the day the good guy in the story. He's the only one trying like really working to keep all the Spider-Verse intact. And that is just a whole other rant I have, but I really love this movie. It is truly one of the greatest movies made in the past 10 years. And it's 100% going to become a classic once it reach that 20-year mark. It's going to become a classic in my eyes. I am so happy that this movie was able to get made, and I can't express enough just how much I'm looking forward to Beyond the Spider-Verse. And then I watched 10 Things I Hate About You, which I think is funny that like it's how the movie is designed. It feels like a political thriller almost, only set in high school. Like not even to the level of what Election was, but like it just feels like it just has that sense of like it's like what if we made one of those political films about like just people trying to play the political games and stuff, but like it's all set in a high school, and that's what really made me like it most. I did have a problem with the fact that there's like two main characters in this movie, and it doesn't really work well because it starts out with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his storyline, and then it just randomly switches over to oh god, why am I blanking? Heath Ledger. Whew, that could have been bad. It goes to Heath Ledger's storyline, and then it kind of goes back to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's storyline, and then it kind of has a weird mix between both. And I don't think it worked very well. That's the biggest thing that kind of took me away from these movies because I love these kinds of movies. I can eat them up all day. I mean, Mean Girls, Clueless. I mean, those kinds of high school movies like those, I'll absolutely eat them up all day long. And I feel like this was so close from being on that same level of movie, but it just didn't really reach the peak that it could have been. And then I watched the Bikeriders, which I did a review on that, so I won't really talk about too much. But my opinion hasn't really changed about it since I first saw it in the theaters. I think it's a good beginning that kind of starts to slump down towards the end once the actual like crime film of it actually starts, and it just really felt like it was trying so hard to be its own unique version of Goodfellas, and it just failed at that. I think it's a good movie. I'm really sad to see the box office numbers aren't doing great. I mean, granted, at the time recording this video, it's just now getting to it's before the second weekend, so I have no idea what the second weekend looks like for this. I think by the time this video comes out, I'll already be posting my box office update, and so I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm hoping it has a good hold, but it's not looking like it. I really enjoyed this movie nonetheless. I really liked what they did with it. And I mean, just please go to see it. I mean, there's a lot of good movies out right now, but please try to watch this because it really is worth it. And then I watched A Million Ways to Die in the West, which I was so confused about why the reviews weren't really that good. And because I was really enjoying the movie, and then the third act happened, and it completely made sense why people didn't like this movie. I thought, even though I didn't like the third act, they go too far into potty humor, and I hate potty humor. It's the cheapest and just unfunniest type of humor. It's the biggest reason why I don't like a lot of Adam Sandler comedies, and so it kind of went at that level. But I mean, the first two-thirds of the movie was really well done. I love what all was happening with it. I loved all the cameos that was in this film. I think for the most part it worked well to enough where like I overall really enjoyed the movie. But I'm probably not gonna rewatch it anytime soon, honestly. And then I watched From Dusk to Dawn, which is so strange because it's two movies in one. It's so Quentin Tarantino wrote the movie, and Robert Rodriguez directed it. And so the first half of the movie is very much a Tarantino like crime thrillers type story. And it's very realistic, grounded in reality. I really like that part. And then it gets the second half, which is very much a Robert Rodriguez movie, where it gets far more sillier, like weirder, and it goes to actual about vampires. And the movie really should not have worked. It really should not have worked as well as it ended up working, because I really enjoyed this movie. Because you get two great movies out of it, really, at the end of the day. You get two movies that, like, I would have been eating up already, and it's all within, like, a 100-minute span, really. I don't even remember how long the movie is, but it worked really well. I really enjoyed the movie. I think that George Clooney was such a great actor. Oh man, I love him so much. And Quentin Tarantino honestly wasn't half bad at acting. I really liked his how he portrayed his character. I thought there was a lot of great moments in this movie. I really am curious, like, I remember hearing about Quentin Tarantino was either was writing or he ended up writing a script for Dusk to Dawn 4, and I don't know what that would have ended up looking like, but I'm really curious what kind of movie that would have ended up being, because I know there's two others that are out. I don't plan on really ever watching them. They don't seem very good. I think it's just a good, like, the Dusk to Dawn is just good as being like just one movie and that's it. And so I really ended up enjoying it. And then I watched Horizon American Saga Chapter 1, which I just got done doing a review on that movie. And so it's a great 3 hour long trailer. I really was not invested with the story at all until it got to that final featurette, which I man, that I don't understand how a movie can be so uninteresting and boring to me. And then it has a final 5 minutes, and it just absolutely blows my mind. It gets me so hyped for what happens with chapter 2 that I really want to watch this now. And it's going to suck because it was supposed to be chapter 3 and 4, like it's a four-part movie series. And odds are it's never going to be made. I don't think it's going to make near enough money to actually be successful. And it hurts because I really want to see more westerns. I feel like there's been just far too long of a drought between good westerns like they used to be. And I get why the genre kind of started dying out, but man, I really wish there was more like legitimate westerns. I wish those westerns that like really did what this movie did, and then like showed the brutality of what the Wild West are, because there's certainly a lot of movies like that. But I feel like looking at the Wild West through a modern lens would be a really great genre to start diving into, because I appreciate neo westerns. I really like what they go. I mean, they've made some really great ones like No Country for Old Men, Logan. Just two. There's two neo westerns. Just think about on top of my head, but I really think that I might end up in really liking the second chapter. And like I don't know why, like all the red flags are showing for these movies. Like they keep on like this should be no reason I'm looking forward to them, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to these movies. And then later that day, I watched Quiet Place Day 1, which I didn't really do a very good review on that. I was pretty tired and I was kind of like ready to go home, and so I didn't really do like a really well done review on it. But I mean, it was a really intense movie. There was a lot of moments where like I was forcing myself to breathe, because I actually felt like I was in that situation where like the characters were like they couldn't breathe or make any sound at all. And like I really felt that in the movie. And it's another thing I really love is that like with this movie, like these Quiet Place movies, every time someone drops something or like pops their knuckles or something, like the entire theater hears it. Well, funny story. I was watching with my friends, and one of them, I think she popped her knuckle or something, and it was loud. Like it was a really good pop, and so you could just hear like it was super loud, and the theater was silent, so everyone heard that, and we all like had a little laughter with it. But yeah, I mean, it's not as good as the first two movies. Oh yeah, the first two movies, but I mean, I really enjoyed what they did with it. I really am a fan of these types of movies, these Quiet Place movies. I'm so excited for what happens with Quiet Place 3. And so yeah, I mean, go watch this movie if you can because it is such a good movie. And I mean, the box office numbers are already looking great. So I'm really happy to see that this franchise is like really getting people to go to see movies in the theaters. And then finally, I ended the month with Monolift, which nobody's probably ever heard of this movie, and I mean it's not really surprising. It's this micro budget Australian film, and so it just recently showed up on Amazon Prime because I was actually looking forward to this ever since it premiered. It was South by Southwest, I believe. I believe that's when I first heard about it, or maybe the Sydney Australian Film Festival. I don't remember. It's one of those film festivals, and so I was really looking forward to it because I've heard interesting things about it. And I mean, I liked it. I really liked it. It definitely had. And see, the problem was like it's not that there was really a lot of bad things done with this movie. It's just that like nothing was done good enough as compared to other thrillers. Because the mystery behind it was intriguing, but it only worked for so long. And by the ending of the movie, I kind of was like, it was kind of ready for it to be done and over with. I mean, it definitely had me hooked the entire time. Like it was pretty well done in terms of intensity. It's just like I've seen a movies do it a lot better, but like I can't help but love that this is just a micro budget Australian movie that was done all basically in one living room, one room really. A lot of this movie takes place in one room. But it really just like all takes place in like just a house. And I loved seeing like how much you could do with so little. I recommend watching it. It's on Amazon Prime. Go watch it. I really liked it. It has a really interesting ending. I won't give that away, but overall, I enjoyed the movie. And so, yeah, that's basically everything I watched this month. I mean, what did you see? I mean, do you agree with me, disagree with me? I mean, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And I should also mention one final thing. I didn't come up with this idea. So there's another YouTuber, Karsten, I like to watch a lot. He does these movies every month. And so I got the idea from that. But also, it's just been a type of film series that I've been wanting to do for a while because I watch a lot of movies. I don't really a lot of these movies aren't really worthy of doing like their own individual videos on, and so I just kind of want to talk about them all, like just have like an area to just discuss it. And but yeah, that I didn't want I don't if anyone notices the similarity, I'm not trying to steal his content. I admire what he does. He's one of my favorite YouTubers to watch. But I just wanted to just get that out of the way. I'm gonna credit him every single month of like thanking him for giving me inspiration for these ideas. But yeah, I just wanted to point out like I'm not trying to steal his content. But I mean, that's really it. I mean, that's all the movies I watched. I mean, it was a pretty good month overall. I really enjoyed the month of June, and I'm really looking forward to what July has to offer. There's a lot of new movies coming out I'm super excited for, and a lot of movies on my watch list I want to get around to seeing. And so, yeah, I guess I'll see you same place, same time next month. So it's movie talk. See ya.